I'm here in New Delhi at a wedding, but we are not going to do something on the wedding. With me is Mrs. Peggy Mohan, who is a doctorate in linguistics.
Yes.
And both of us are doing also work on Bhojpuri. You on Trinidadian Bhojpuri, me on Surinamese Bhojpuri.
Okay, I'm a Trinidadian. You can start that way. I am somebody who from the time I was a child was fascinated by languages, fascinated and terrified, because in our home was spoken Creole and English. My mom was from Montreal, there's French and English. I heard Hindi and Bhojpuri spoken by the old people who really did not want me to learn. So I had this terrible feeling that languages were something that it's hard to learn because nobody's going to help you to learn them, but I was always hearing them. So then I decided at some point that I'm going to keep with this. And by the time I was ready to go to university, I started linguistics as soon as I did my first degree with French and Spanish. And after that, I continued, and then it ended with me doing a doctorate in linguistics, but the subject was Trinidad Bhojpuri. So I wanted to look at how the grammar worked, how the whole language worked, before I could look at what was happening to it, because you have to first describe it. And that was where and even when I was an undergraduate, I was interested in changes in the language, which we were beginning to see.
But in your Trinidadian situation, could you speak Bhojpuri?
Who, me?
Yes.
I learned Bhojpuri by taking up a tape recorder, going into the countryside with a friend or with my father or the various people helping me to find people who could speak Bhojpuri. I would bring it home and take it to my grandmother. And we would listen to the tapes together at night, and I would write them out. I would need help because I would not always understand everything. And in the process of listening to the tapes, I slowly began to pick it up. And meanwhile, I was learning Hindi anyway, so there was enough that I could manage to connect. What about you? I believe you've also done a book on Bhojpuri in Suriname.
I wrote the grammar of Bhojpuri.
Right. So we are alike in this way.
But at home we spoke Dutch and Bhojpuri and also Creole, Surinamese Creole, Sarnami.
Right. So Suriname is very different. In fact, Suriname is extremely unusual for any country I can think of because you keep so many languages current together. Normally in Trinidad, choices would be made because I think by the time we went to school, Hindi was introduced initially, and that really terrified Indians because are we doing something wrong? Are we speaking a Creole of Hindi? And Bhojpuri was thought to be maybe bad Hindi. Whereas somehow you missed that in Suriname. You managed to learn Hindi and keep your Bhojpuri current. And both ways work.
But still, I'm very much concerned about the future of Bhojpuri in Suriname. We name it Sarnami Bhasha.
Okay.
Sarnami, because what we see happening not only in Suriname, but also in the Netherlands, where many Hindustanis emigrated to, that Bhojpuri is waning.
But you know, that's the thing that worries me is we can't have it perfectly alive for us when it's in bad shape in India too. For a long time, Bhojpuri was very much a language, gaon ki boli, that people spoke, and in fact, you would find that every village had its own stamp, but once you came to writing or moving out of the village, you spoke Hindi. So Bhojpuri was handicapped even here. I would say that for Suriname, Trinidad, Mauritius, we had the advantage of escaping from India because Hindi did not put the same constraint on us, make us into just a gaon ki boli.
You say gaon ki boli, but there is another term for it in our country. We call it gawaru boli. That is a psychological impression. I mean, on the people that they feel inferior towards others. Yes, and that is finesse in Dutch. We say
and
majority.
And not only in Suriname, not only in Trinidad, tutal bhakha, tutal bhasa. Not only us, even in India. When I try to speak to people here in Bhojpuri, a lot of funny things happen. First of all, they can do it for 5 minutes. It's very nice. We establish it. We're from the same part of India, and how wonderful to meet. After that, they don't want to do it because they know in their hearts, I'm not really like them. I am somebody from another part of the world. And they want that distance. Hindi provides it. So I can drop a few Bhojpuri things in the beginning and at the end and here and there. But if I were to speak in Bhojpuri all the time, it would be confusing to them because who am I? Am I in fact a villager? You know?
I was explaining my work. When I came to know the real situation, inferior language, Sarnami, and the superior language, Hindi, and that this relationship is very damaging for both. And I also read an article of an American linguist, Ferguson, who explained this system as diglossia. Then I started to work on it in the Netherlands, to make people aware of the beauty of their mother tongue, Sarnami Bhojpuri, Sarnami Hindustani. Yeah?
But the interesting thing is that you get to appreciate it when it no longer threatens you. You and I are now safe. We are not going to become indentured laborers. But our families, at least mine in Trinidad, thought that I would be pulling myself back to the estate if I spoke like the old people. Now they know I won't, but now it's too late. So can anything be done? Can anything be preserved? I think that the only way a language is fully alive is when young children speak it. You have survived that much better in Suriname than we have. I don't even know in India how well it's doing, because there have been times when I've gone to speak to school children in the Bhojpuri area. If their school is near to a big road, they have trouble speaking Bhojpuri. They can tell me things they have memorized, recite songs, recite stories, but they can't tell me, they can't just speak naturally. Here and there you will get a clever child who knows that she'll speak Hindi and put ba instead of hai, and put karela instead of karta hai. Right, so she's faking it. But, and this is, I'm talking about 1976. So how much worse it must be now. But some things have improved in India. But until Bhojpuri is associated with literacy, jobs, technology, even
radio,
Hindi,
TV.
Even Hindi is suffering in India, and I'm quite clear about that. Because you see in the towns, we are beginning to see children come to school who don't speak Hindi very well, who barely do.
But you are still working on Bhojpuri? Are you trying to...
For my own purposes, I'm very interested in how Bhojpuri and Hindi are mixing. And I'm wondering if to divert myself to write about it, because nowadays people who speak Hindi very well and know Bhojpuri are beginning to say infuse gender into it. And I want to look at how that happens. It's again like as Ferguson says, it's a diglossia situation, but it's a very mixed diglossia. You're getting a lot of mixing happening in India.
What I am doing in the Netherlands is trying to make people aware that they have a very beautiful heritage which must be kept, because knowing many languages makes you more intelligent.
I don't know if I'm more intelligent from knowing this, because I just take it for granted. But I know about the whole idea. We have a common friend, Visham. Visham has been trying to preserve a lot of these things.
Visham from Trinidad.
Yes. We've been having a lot of discussions about what's the best way to go about it. Should we concentrate on preserving, because we have stuff to preserve? Should we concentrate on trying to rejuvenate it to get people to speak it? We haven't completely decided, but I think that very important is to preserve the things that we have and let people have an understanding of them, because I think in a normal language situation, people understand long before they start speaking. They listen quietly.
First.
Right.
Passive command.
Precisely. That's something that's not understood very well in the West. I want to sort of caution against pushing people to start saying hum karila, tu karela, ka kare ke hoi. Well, that of course is that's a fragment by itself. But to start listening like a book, when I wrote, I started with the story. I can do it in Bhojpuri a bit. Ego bana rahal, aego banariya, du jana. Ta duna jana baital rahal, ego dar pe. Atare rahal, ego nari. तो बनरिया बोलेला बनरुआ से कि देख ऐसन घड़ी ऐसन सम्मत आयल बा कि जौन ई जल में कूद जाए तो उसके जन्म पाए तो बनरुआ बोले तो कूदना हम काहे के कूदी तो बनरिया वही जल में कूद गए तो मानुष के जन्म मिलल. That is a metaphor of our crossing the ocean.
हम तो से भोजपुरिया बतियाला अब सरनामी भोजपुरी हमने बतियाबे कि हमारा जन्म सरनाम में भैल ये कैसे लगत है तो अपन त्रिनिदाद भोजपुरी लगत है कि थोड़ा अलग है.
इतना अलग ना बा
समझिला तू सब हमनी तोहनी ये सब शब्द के काम में लावे. हम लोग हमनी ना जानेला
ना दोनों बा. हम लोग हमनी के
वो तो त्रिनिदाद
वो तो पुराना चीज
बाकी सरनाम में बिल्कुल ना
बा. तो ऐसा होला
देख हम बोली सरनाम में बिल्कुल ना है अब बोले ना बा it's pure Bhojpuri.
Probably because I think we preserve different things. Here, in fact, from what I hear of Suriname, you have different kinds of Bhojpuri depending upon how far apart the settlements are. Even in Trinidad, because I know my great-great-grandmother was from Aligarh, so we've been left with a few words from Braj. So I tend to say Bhakha instead of Bhasa.
एक expression भी बा ओकर भाखा लग गए. You understand?
Yeah.
There is a curse on it.
Yeah, but
You understand?
we have not used. I don't know that.
अच्छा.
No. We'll find a lot of things that are a little different. Sometimes I can go to people here and ask them for little, well, do you know the same word? Have you heard the same things?
Yes.
And that's, it's very useful for me. Like when I was writing my book, there were teachers in our school who I would go to and say, do you know this word? Do you know this game? Where does this thing come from? Like we would talk about Munglasia. हम तो मुंगलसिया रहल. मुंगलसिया है मोगल तरह का. Means the system is a Mughal system जिसमें सिर्फ आदमी migrate करते थे, family रहते थे. So the whole single man, but he wasn't single. He left his family here. So I had to find the roots of what is a Munglasia.
हम लोग बोलेला मुगलिसिया. मुगलिसिया. That's a single man.
Yeah.
जेकर शादी उदी न भल कोई औरत न रहा साथे.
Oh,
ship
no.
में.
In fact, it means he may have a wife, but the wife was remain behind in India. In fact, that's the story I use in my own Jahaj, in the book I wrote, where the woman goes not knowing that she's leaving her husband behind. She's taking her child with her. So here's a woman, and a lot of the marriages that took place on the boat were people who were already married, so they couldn't have a full marriage. They had what's a sagai, just an engagement on the boat, so that they could travel as a couple. But so Munglasia, a number of these words, I had to check out their roots, and there are people here who know all these things.
Talking about our friend Visham from Trinidad, one thing he's doing now is translating my Sarmani Byakaran into English.
That's awesome.
No?
I mean, it needs to be done because these are all things which are going to help us, and we can compare. Because you might be surprised. There may be places that are in Trinidad sound more like Sarnami, and there may be things you would not understand in Sarnami, which I can explain because they're in Trinidad. In fact, there's an interesting story that Sheila Sahatu told me once. I said to her, your name is familiar. I've heard it before, Sahatu. He says, let me tell you a story with a good Surinamese accent. Apparently, there were two Sahatu brothers, and one went on the boat to Trinidad, and his other brother was left behind. And he he spent his whole life wondering what had happened to his brother. The other brother went on the next boat, which was to Suriname. He knew where his brother was, and eventually the descendants met up. So it was very an interesting story. I included it in my novel.
I know an identical story of the Barros family in Suriname. Barros, Waldi Barros is a doctor. He went to Mauritius, and their children were looking into the telephone directory whether there are Barroses there. And there was a long row of Barros, Barros, Barros. Then they saw one was a doctor, so he called
and tried to find out.
Explained that we are from Suriname and the Netherlands, and our name is also Barros. Could we meet or so? And they were very friendly, and
they turned out to be related.
Turned out to be related. When the Waldi Barros went to them, he saw his own face in the other one.
Okay.
The biological appear.
Yeah.
That's very interesting.
I often think now, I've been to Aligarh a few times. Every time I go in there, I think of my great-great-grandmother leaving. And what's more, some of her brothers and her father went back. I'm sure I have relatives who, well, people move. They may not be there right now, but that I'm going back to some place that has something to do with me.
Okay.
Not to mention Faizabad, which is where my great-great-grandfather came from. In fact, not Faizabad, in fact, Ayodhya itself. They're very close. And he went to Faizabad, and there he was recruited.
Now you have settled down in India and New Delhi.
Yes.
Don't you have nostalgic feelings towards Trinidad, or do you often go there?
I haven't been much. It's very, very far. Nostalgic feelings about a Trinidad that doesn't exist anymore, because when I hear about Trinidad, it sounds completely strange. It's a violent place. It's a place where my parents are not there anymore. When I go there, as soon as I see everything, I can completely bond. My daughter, who's not Trinidadian, wanted to give her daughter a Trinidadian name. She gave her the Arawakan name for Trinidad, which is Kairi. So in a way we feel a bond, but we're very much aware that it's been 40 years. You know, but as they say in Bhojpuri, not 40 does not exist. Dui kori baris. So it's been 40 years, and the place has changed. I don't belong. I don't have instincts about what is there anymore.
For us, living in the Netherlands, I every year go two times, one time to Suriname. And my children who are born, boys, they love Suriname very much. I've bred them with the feeling that three countries are very important for their identity. That is first India, the land of our roots. Second, where they are born in the Netherlands. And Suriname, the country of their parents. So they love three of these. Of course, we travel a lot.
For us, it's difficult because I said Trinidad is so far from India. I'm not in the middle. And I've been back a few times, enough for my daughter to wish she had some more of a connection with the place. We always keep planning to go. And I'm in touch every day. I'm in touch with Visham all the time. Sometimes, amazingly, the time zones are such that we seem to be awake at the same time. Whereas my daughter in California, it's much more difficult. But I wonder how I would connect, because is any of the stuff that I'm doing important? But yet, it's true that the work I'm doing on India, on language, derives from what I've seen in the Caribbean, where language is very fluid and has evolved so quickly. So I keep thinking that my Caribbeanness has come into the work I do in India. I'm gone beyond just Bhojpuri, but to see if I can see similarities.
Can you tell me something about the official position of Bhojpuri? I heard many years ago that Indian government gave recognition to Bhojpuri as one of the national languages.
I thought so too, but then whenever I said that we were now on the 8th schedule, and a large number of things did happen at that time, for example, people started bringing out magazines and newspapers in Bhojpuri.
And Bhojpuri Sansad and
That of
Bhojpuri
course, the
Andolan.
Sansad doesn't do much, but the magazines do a lot, pop culture, Bhojpuri films, and you also got a lot of politicians campaigning. I would be called, say for example, to rallies to speak along with somebody like Lalu Prasad Yadav. And here's what interesting thing happened then. Even if it didn't completely become a national language, I noticed changes in Bhojpuri. When I first came to India, Bhojpuri was something that was a very village dialect, and everybody had to have the stamp of their village. I had no stamp. Very wide-ranging lingua franca type Bhojpuri. But then when I try to speak it now, I find more people sound quite a lot like me. They have effaced a lot of the localisms and the village touch, and it's become a much more all-encompassing language. I have not changed, but clearly Indian Bhojpuri has moved in the direction that Caribbean and Bhojpuri has. We don't have to look to India. I think now they have to look to us.
To us, yeah. And they even do
Yeah.
with some songs and so on.